Today I fucked up by having a poo in a dead old lady's toilet. Obligatory, this didn't happen today, but a few years ago, it still haunts me to this very day. So a few years ago I was working as an admin assistant for a second-hand furniture company in the UK. It was a quiet day in the office, so my boss decided to send me out with a driver to remove the furniture from a lady's bungalow who had sadly passed away. It's a hot day by English standards and I'm just enjoying being out on the road with the passenger window down catching a cooling breeze. Eventually, we reach the little bungalow in a quiet, rural cul-de-sac and the driver and myself open the door and head inside. Most of the decorative and sentimental objects had already been removed, presumably by the family, and all that remained were larger items of furniture such as the big old TV and sofa, etc. There were still some framed photographs on side tables and it made me feel a little sad to look at the family portraits and stand in the middle of this living room knowing that the person who once lived here will never be coming home. As we begin moving a sofa out to the truck outside, I start to get a stirring deep within my bowel. I'm normally pretty good at holding in a poo and boast a proud record of only having to shit outside once in my entire life. This time, it felt different. Instead of a gentle tugging feeling in my lower intestine to tell my brain I think you're ready for a poo chap, it was a primal, guttural churning which radiated all the way from my stomach to my asshole. I began to get nervous at this point, not yet a full-blown panic, but a dawning realization that I am in trouble as little beads of sweat began to show up on my forehead and my palms became almost too clammy to grip the frame of the sofa. This thing isn't going to wait much longer. It is cooked to absolute perfection. The drive back to the office is a full 45 minutes and I know deep down in my heart that I won't survive the journey and would end up soiling myself in the truck, which would be absolutely mortifying, and as there doesn't seem to be any woodland nearby, I make the executive decision there and then to deliver my payload in the downstairs toilet. Quickly helping the sofa onto the back of the truck, I legged it back into the bungalow without saying a word, leaving my colleague to ponder what had prompted such urgency. In the soft light of the cupboard-sized bathroom, I hastily unbuttoned my trousers and pulled them around my ankles. As soon as the back of my thighs came into contact with the cool porcelain rim, this mighty brown basilisk folded out of me like a bicycle in a tube, much to the relief of my strained and exhausted colon. I felt an almost immediate sense of relief. I think I even laughed to myself. But what I found strange was there was no splash. Nothing. Much like Tom Cruise's character in War of the Worlds when he is observing the electrical storm from his back garden and commenting on the absence of thunder, I found myself wondering why the dense payload I had just ejected from my rectum had not spelunked in the water beneath me. It turns out the water had been cut off to the bungalow some days ago. In my speed to purge the repulsive mass from my abdomen, I hadn't noticed there was no water in the toilet. It's at this moment I catch a glimpse of myself in the bathroom mirror, disheveled with my pants around my feet and the unmistakable look of shame on my face, having just taken possibly the biggest shit of my career to date in this poor old dead lady's toilet. Amongst all the cherished memories and memorabilia of a fellow human being's life, I had taken a monstrous shit and couldn't get rid of it. How would I explain this to my boss? Forget that. How would I explain this to the family? They would come back to the bungalow at some point to remove the rest of their sweet old mum/grandma's possessions and would find an unwelcome brown visitor nestled neatly in the toilet bowl, planted there by some disrespectful bastard. Planted there by me. Tried dry flushing this behemoth several times, but he wasn't budging owing to its sheer size and material makeup. It remained steadfast in the bowl, looking up at me like a fat snake, taunting me. I'm not a religious person by any means, but I felt so mortified by the unfurling situation that I started to apologize to the old lady and asking her for her forgiveness and understanding. I'm so sorry. Couldn't hold it in. I absolutely had to go. I had no choice. You understand, don't you? Don't you? Please forgive me. Exhausted of options, I sneaked back out of the toilet and closed the door behind me, closing the chapter on one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and headed back to the truck. As we drove back to the office, I thought about it a lot. Nobody but myself knew what lurked behind that door under the stairs in that pretty little bungalow, but soon enough it would be discovered and questions would be asked. I thought maybe gravity would eventually do its level best to pull the feces into the pipes and out of sight, or maybe it was somehow possible Grandma had taken the dump before she passed away and nobody had noticed it dwelling in the downstairs toilet yet. In a way it became like Schrodinger's poo. If the door remained closed, was it even still there? But I knew deep down the family were in for an unpleasant surprise. I never did hear what happened with the monstrous poo I left in a dead lady's toilet in that quiet English cul-de-sac, but I have often thought about it in the years following. Too long didn't read. I took a poo in a dead old lady's toilet while removing furniture and couldn't flush it away as the water had been cut off. It has been a source of guilt and shame ever since. Edit. Wow, thank you for the overwhelming response to my brown escapade. Just to clarify a few things, I didn't know how a toilet works back then, always thought it was some kind of black magic, so I didn't think getting some water was an option. I thought if I threw water down there it would fall into the pipe and be lodged there forever like a meaty monolith. Thanks for the compliments on my writing, I really do enjoy it and am working on a novel, not about poo. This was a true story though. In the future, you can often flush a toilet just by filling it with water. That's why I always take a 10-gallon bucket with me. Ha 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 ha, you carry a 10-gallon bucket of water everywhere. Don't you get tired? That was an emotional roller coaster. No shit. Schrodinger's poo was my personal highlight. Schrodinger's scat. Edit. So this is my most rewarded comment. Nice. A colleague of mine did something very similar, but with a new build. The plumbing hadn't been connected yet, so not only could we not just pour some water into the cistern to get a flush, it had nowhere to go if we did. There was a portaloo on site but I hadn't been listening. We ended up doing the whole job with this stink in the air, and denied all knowledge to management when the family moved in a fortnight later. Lul, deny all knowledge, that's the best approach. Can't believe I didn't think of putting water in the cistern. I'm not a very technically minded individual. Could have saved myself a lot of embarrassment there. I'm imagining the family finding a giant turd and saying, wow, Muriel laid a big one before dying, it's half the size of her. Today I fucked up watching porn with my parents. So this happened a few weeks ago, but I'm still not over it, so thought I would share. A few weeks ago, my stepdad walked in from work with an unlocked Amazon Fire Stick, thinking he'd hit the jackpot. My mom and stepdad are both big into films and series, so though this could end all their subscriptions with Netflix sect. As most parents, mine are fairly clueless when it comes to technology, so whenever they buy something new like this they call on me, the 27-year-old son, to come help them out. I happily agreed, but warned them that not only was this device against the law, but also pretty terrible. I was adamant I'd prove this to them so they didn't get lumbered with either a fine or shitty quality movies and series. So I get to their house, plug it in and take a seat between the two of them on the sofa. This isn't a massive sofa, so we're pretty close to one another. My mom is also partially deaf, so whereas most households would have their volume set to let's say 20, in this house, it's usually at around 50. Most of the time I'm there I can't hear myself think if the TV's on, that's how loud it usually is. Remember this for when shit hits the fan. If you've ever set one of these up before, you'll know they're pretty much plug and go. So I had it set up in under 5 minutes. I was asked to show them how to navigate to different parts with films, series ect. Thankfully, everything we tried to watch either didn't work, or was just unwatchable, so they were happy to just get rid. That was until my mom say the live TV option, and asked if she could see the quality of that. Sure, why not? Again it will be terrible and they'll thankfully be disappointed. I just put channel 1 on and straight away, Freeview was better, So that was that in the bin, it's going. I went to hit back to exit out so I could turn it off and get rid. I pressed the wrong button. I pressed channel down. Oh god. As soon as I clicked this button, it went to the very last channel. Live stream of Pornhub. Now is the time to remember how close we're sat and how loud this TV currently is. On the screen, out of nowhere was a guy sat on the sofa, girl in reverse cowgirl, legs spread and getting her back doors well and truly smashed in by some very well gifted guy. Not only that, with the position she was in, she had basically turned into a human water fountain that was landing just in front of the camera. The squelching, slapping and moaning noises will forever haunt me. I didn't know what to do. My mom was screaming, the girl on the TV was screaming, I looked at my stepdad and his jaw was on the floor. I frantically start hitting any button I can to try and get me out of this nightmare, but for a good few seconds, nothing happened. It finally turns off and my mom and stepdad look at each other and just burst out laughing. I'm sat here, in the middle of them both feeling younger and more embarrassed than I ever have in my life. Still now, I can't go to the house without them bringing it up as a massive joke, when I'm truly still haunted by the whole thing. Too long didn't read, my stepdad bought a Fire Stick, I set it up for them, I pressed the wrong button and I ended up watching a live Pornhub stream on full blast whilst sat between them. I couldn't get it to turn off at first and hated my life when I finally could. Edit, wow. Went to sleep and work and this did well. Thanks for all the awards. For all those saying that the Fire Stick is just as good as anything else and I must be stupid the way I set it up. 1. A Fire Stick is good out the box with all the developed apps you can get. This however had been opened, and had third-party software installed so you could watch literally in channel, film, series for free. For example, here in the UK the Sky Sports package is pretty expensive, but it's all on there with no monthly subscriptions. The quality however isn't great unless there's a really good stream, which isn't likely. It also had brand new films that are not yet released to Netflix or anything. Again, you'd find the odd gem, but it's unlikely and frankly, not worth the time. 2. I didn't install these third-party apps. My stepdad had it off a guy in work who had preloaded it for him. I have had one of these before a few years back which I did myself by installing Kodi and then further apps for that. I want to say Genesis. It worked a treat for me for a few months before it just became a pain in the ass. I used mine purely for live NHL as we don't get that much here in the UK. 3. I didn't install these apps. Therefore I did not put the porn on there. I knew it was on there from experience, and I knew to avoid it. I didn't however realize it was on the live TV option and the last channel for that matter. I'm glad lots of you were able to enjoy this story. Congrats, one of the only people in the world who has watched porn with their parents. Cherish this moment. Similar incident, but with my kids. I got Kodi running and showed my kid, probably about 7 at the time, how to use it. All went well until I heard obvious sex sounds coming from the living room. Go running in there and he was watching a porn parody that had a very similar name to a cartoon he wanted to watch. That was the last day of Kodi. Been paying for all my content ever since. Sheesh. Horrible experience. Hopefully your kid will forget. Was it the last of Kodi, or last of Kodi in the living room? Haha! Exclamation mark. My mom was screaming, the girl on the TV was screaming. Paragraph cracked me good. Thanks for sharing. Literally just make fun of your stepdad right back and remind him that it was him who brought the porn into the house. Edit, what in the holy yee? How do you get Pornhub so easily on the Fire Stick? Asking for me. I'm asking for myself. Today I fucked up by owning a huge box of expired condoms. The context: my mum moved houses and during the move she and my sister found a huge box of expired condoms in my old room. I haven't lived at my mum's since I was 18 and at the time I didn't have a girlfriend, so they were quite shocked. I had to tell them the story how I acquired my collection of unused protection. When I was 14 years old, me and a friend went on a first holiday trip without any parents. It was on an island on the coast of my home country. Believe me, it is not as cool as it sounds. Anyway, This freedom gave me the courage to go and try out a condom. You know, because I want to be prepared for when the day would come. So I said to my friend that I would go to the store and do some groceries. On the island there are only 2 supermarkets and either one is on the other side of the island. Once I got to the store I was very nervous. Thought it must have looked very strange, a 14-year-old kid buying condoms. So I did the age-old trick of buying a pack of gum to seem less suspicious. Once I located the condoms I saw something I didn't suspect. It was a box with 12 smaller packets sealed inside. The cleric should have unsealed the packets, and I should have known this wasn't normal. But what did I do? I took the whole box. I waited a bit so the conveyor belt was empty, and so that no one could see what I was buying. There, a cute cashier that was a few years older than I was, greeted me with a smile, which soon turned in confusion and disgust once she saw the huge box of condoms. I just wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. She scanned the gum, €1.15 alright. Then she scanned the box, €4.30. However, there was some confusion. She didn't trust it fully and tried scanning it again. Then the cashier requested backup. This sadly took a moment, and by the time backup came to help her, a huge line accumulated behind me, the thing I didn't want to happen. The backup, a girl in her early 20s, gave me the same awkward greeting as the younger cashier. In the end she figured out how to scan the huge box and gave me this horrific sentence, that is then year 52,75. I should have just said that this was a mistake. That I just wanted one packet. That I was not going to need them until I was much older. But what did I do? My 14-year-old stupid ass took my wallet and paid. Red as a tomato, I took the plastic debit card and pushed in my PIN code. While tears were welling up, I rushed out the store, but then remembered that I said to my friend that I would go grocery shopping. Fuck. I had 2 choices, either go back and face the girl again, or cycle all the way to the other side of the island and do my shopping there. Of course I chose the latter. In the end I had to tell the whole story to my mum and sister. I hope you got some of the same enjoyment out of this story like them. Too long didn't read. My mum and sister found out that I paid way too much for unused condoms when I was a kid. Here's a pity vote. The second-hand embarrassment hurts my soul. Thanks. Luckily it is already years ago, but still get occasional flashbacks in the shower. Too long didn't read. My mum and sister found out that I paid way too much for unused condoms when I was a kid. Beats paying for used condoms. Oh man, this is the stuff to keep you up at night. Brain would be like, you remember that time everyone knew you needed 200 condoms? Question mark. I bought a 12-pack I think just before heading to college for my freshman year. Came home the next summer with that unopened 12-pack packed in my stuff. Oof. Mate, you missed a trick. I used to buy sweets and things from the corner shop, then sell them at school for twice the price. You could have been the local condom dealer, single-handedly keeping your local area sex safe and protected, saving other kids the embarrassment of going to a store. My friend from HS used to buy the 99-cent Arizona cans and sell them for $1.50. He would have a net profit of $50 a week just from iced tea. He then moved on to more college-oriented goods once he graduated. Now he runs his own business.